Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Workforce Wednesday event. We are so excited that you are all joining us today. The event will be recorded and live streamed. Please keep yourself muted if you're not speaking, and know that we will be monitoring the chat throughout the event. My name is Jacqueline Buck, Director of Workforce Strategy at the Department of Employment and Economic Development. Workforce Wednesdays are a virtual networking series that focus on sharing best practices and workforce strategies. It is in response to employers who are struggling to find employees throughout the state. The events are being held the first Wednesday of every month from 11 a.m. to 12 noon and hosted by the Regional Workforce Strategy Consultant team. Information about future Workforce Wednesday events and topics can be found on careerforcemn.com. During our Workforce Wednesday events, we will be focusing on all things workforce, from establishing talent pipelines and sharing proven workforce practices to building diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, as well as talent attraction, onboarding, outreach, and retention strategies. We are very excited to showcase employers and workforce experts with innovative workforce solutions throughout this series. The Workforce Strategy Consultant team consists of 5 individuals and soon to be 6, as we are hiring one for our Southeast region of state, who work regionally throughout the state with employers, our workforce partners, educators, and industry associations. As a team, we work on developing innovative workforce solutions by aligning resources, facilitating collaboration, and leveraging expertise in targeted industry sectors and high growth occupations to drive equity and growth. And this is really important because everything we do around workforce is to drive Minnesota's economic equity and growth. Now, today we will focus on strategies to connect with your potential workforce in a time when face-to-face opportunities are limited and often time prevented. Today, you'll have the opportunity to be introduced to each of the regional workforce consultants as they will be sharing a little bit about themselves, their region, their workforce passion, and presenting an innovative workforce strategy. To get us started, I'm going to pass it over to Jessica Miller, one of our workforce strategy consultants.
Hi, everybody. I am Jessica Miller, and I cover South Central, Southwest, and Southeast Minnesota. We thought that to kick off our series, we would talk about navigating through the needs of today's workforce and showcase some ways that employers have pivoted to meet those needs during our recent time. We're also going to highlight strategies to connect you with your potential workforce in a time when face-to-face opportunities are limited, as we know that they are. So we're your workforce strategy consultant team. Each of our team members will introduce themselves, like Jackie said, and talk about what makes their region unique and share some best practices that are happening in their areas to attract and retain some. We know that there'll be questions and we welcome them. Feel free to utilize that chat feature to ask your questions when you think of them. We would also love to hear how you or your regional employers are engaging with people right now and what innovative strategies that you've heard about and would like to share. So feel free to use this as a forum. Our plans are to go through the questions that we're not able to get through during our Q&A today and send that out post-event with some answers and additional strategies. So what's ahead? We're going to be talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts today that are happening in Northwest Minnesota and also in Central Minnesota. We're going to learn about what family-friendly workplace is and how you can become one. We're going to talk about attracting and retaining a diverse workforce. We're going to learn about company culture and why it's so important to engage with your employers or your employees. And finally, we're going to talk about the importance of social media and community partnership. But first, in order to understand what strategies to employ in a candidate-driven market like we have right now, you have to take into consideration the barriers to employment, and there are many. COVID did not help the situation either, and in a lot of ways made a lot of these way worse than they were before. If there is a silver lining, it's that because of COVID, some of these barriers that might have been ignored previously have really come to light. So we're able to really focus on them more so. Transportation was an issue prior to COVID, and the pandemic literally shut options down completely for many people. People needed in some cases and still need to be home with their school-aged kids or other family. So how can we make a positive impact on reducing and eliminating some of these barriers? Well, we adjust and we adapt. And I've seen you all do this, and you know how to make the impossible happen because I've seen you do this over the last year. So you've committed to doing business during a pandemic. You've taken your workforce remote overnight. You've adjusted and adapted to the needs that we've had to take in place due to COVID, and you've kept things going. Today's workforce requires flexible development. They want connection. They need opportunities and options. We've got some employers that are offering advancement opportunities every 2 years just to retain their current staff. They want options, remote work, connection, purpose, they want inclusion, and they want work-life balance. So what exactly makes up this workforce we're talking about? We'll be speaking to demographics more as we move through our time together, but I want to share this snapshot of Minnesota's race and ethnicity projection for the next 20 plus years. If you look at the far right-hand column, it indicates projected growth of all of our populations except for our white non-Hispanic group. The highest jump is almost 75% in our Black or African American non-Hispanic population, followed closely by our Asian or other Pacific Islander non-Hispanic population, which is just under 70%. So now let's take a little bit of a look at our age projections. All right, again, anything in yellow in that right-hand column projects growth and indicates growth. Our workforce is diversifying remarkably, and that's great news because that means that you have opportunities to recruit from many different talent pools, and we're going to help you. But first, we're going to have a quick chat question. All right, in your chat box, I want you to answer the question, how are you engaging with today's workforce? Hold on a second. I'm hearing that we might have some difficulties. Are we able to see the presentation? Can somebody just confirm?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I thought I saw something come through chat that we're not able to see anything. So I just wanted to make sure. All right. So thank you for your answers. We're going to through. I see social media. I see lots of social media. Good. We're going to be talking about that. We see Facebook. All right. Oh, thank you for confirming you can see the presentation. You're all so kind. Teams, social media person, Indeed, networking, in-house job fairs. I've seen some virtual job fairs too. Chat, Indeed, WhatsApp. Oh, WhatsApp. That's a new one. Email, virtual job fairs. Lots of different things like that. Great. Well, thank you so much for answering those questions. Social media pipeline. Awesome. All right. So now I get the distinct pleasure to kick things off to my colleague, Mr. Chet Bodine, who's going to talk about Northwest Minnesota.
Thanks, Jess. And good morning, everybody. This is great to see this amazing turnout. We're thrilled to be able to talk to employers across the state and share some of the regional strategies that each of us in our region are really deploying and potentially could be replicated in other parts of the state by other employers and partners. I work in Northwest Minnesota. Again, my name is Chet Bodine. Our region is 26 counties. It ranges from Little Falls, Brainerd in the southeast corner, to Roseau, Warroad in the north, and then all the way down the North Dakota border from Grand Forks, East Grand Forks to the Fargo-Moorhead area. We have spent a lot of time working on building a more inclusive workforce environment in Northwest Minnesota. And a lot of that builds off some of the data that Jess shared at the beginning. Our labor force across the state is becoming much more diverse. And in our region in particular, we noticed that employers are hiring, they're seeing more diversity in their places of business. They're hiring more. Their businesses are becoming more diverse in terms of their workforce, but turnover rates, we're still suffering. And I just shared some data here that we were looking at with a group of employers to see how turnover rates for the non-white populations are typically higher, and in some cases twice as high. And we thought, how do we strategize? How do we address this? And so we came up with the inclusive workforce employer designation. Next slide, please. And the IWE designation is a strategy. It's a recognition program for employers who are building more inclusive workforce practices and preparing for a more multicultural workplace to be able to support and help workers from all backgrounds and all places succeed there. The goal overall is to reduce disparities and raise awareness of the value of and methods for increasing diversity by creating a designation to recognize and promote inclusive employers. Next slide, please. In order to be recognized, we ask employers to meet 4 criteria. First is that they express a commitment to an inclusive workplace in their mission, their values. Sometimes they will write a letter to their employees saying this is an important subject for us and something we are going to integrate into our business. The second criteria is that the company does an assessment to gauge where are we right now in terms of our inclusion, our inclusivity. Are we welcoming to job seekers and employees from the non-majority background? And so trying to get a gauge for that, a feel for that, and hopefully that'll give us some idea about where we can provide training, which is the third criteria, that will add value to our organization and help us become more inclusive. Last but definitely not least is that employers find a way to sustain this work, to allocate resources, again, to weave this into their culture and everything they do over time so that it goes beyond just the one and done type of thing. We found out that tends to not work very well. And so we need to find a way to sustain this work. Next slide, please. So the IWE designation has a pathway. We'll just kind of go through this briefly. And we're going to talk about this a lot at our next session, actually. But, employer starts out, there's an onboarding process. They have an initial consultation with myself or another workforce strategy consultant. And we just discuss, what are you doing in your business now? What do you think you could, where could you improve? I've tried to become a good resource manager and learn a lot about different resources and tools that are out there for businesses to engage in this work. And so where I can, I will make a recommendation. But if an employer has a tool or resource that they think will add value to their business, it's not prescriptive, so they can leverage training that they find on their own or an assessment program to meet the criteria. And then finally, we have a local group called the Community Workforce Inclusion Council that an employer can meet with to get feedback on the inclusive practices they're developing from members of the community. On the quick, we have representation from our tribal partners, from disabled job seekers, from the LGBTQ community, and others who can provide feedback about practices employers are developing. They also make recommendations to employers, and finally, the employer, when they're ready, will apply for that recognition, and that's taken to the Regional Workforce Alliance for approval. Next slide, please. I mentioned the Community Workforce Inclusion Council. This is a really critical part to the IWE designation because it really grounds the process in a way that helps to, again, give that external feedback loop to employers, but also they can help promote employers to communities that they're a part of, to their friends and families. And there are short-term benefits. Of course, we give employers kind of a starting place and a framework for building a more inclusive culture. You have that support, but otherwise there are also long-term benefits, and these include retention, developing that culture that takes time to develop, increasing your consumer supplier market. If you have business partners who value this, and they should, that can help improve those connections as well. So again, we will talk more about this at the next session. I hope you join us then. For now, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Sean Husky, over in Northeast Minnesota, to talk about some of the stuff they got going on over there. Sean?
Good morning, everyone. And good morning to the almost 200 people joining us. That's fantastic. I am Sean Husky. I'm a workforce strategy consultant for Northeast Minnesota. Some of the issues that I focus on are in rural growth and economic development. The industries up in my area are construction and healthcare. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is a program that will be launching soon that is something that you might be able to duplicate in your area in regards to family-friendly businesses. So if we just want to go ahead and advance the slide. Let Jody in here. And then, so this program is one that we're in the process of developing, and is focused on promoting family-friendly employers to those who left the workforce due to family or childcare concerns. So we're trying to reach out to that unique demographic. We know a lot of them left during the pandemic, and we're essentially trying to bring them back into the labor force. The family-friendly designation helps match employers with those who have young children, older adults in their care, or youth workers. And this project is unique because it's a collaboration between the Laurentian Chamber of Commerce, Chisholm Chamber of Commerce, Hibbing Chamber of Commerce, Iron Range Tourism, and Deed. Now, you're probably wondering why we will go ahead and focus on this issue. And if we go to the next slide, it'll give some data on that. On this issue is some of the data sets that are up on the slide. And forgive me for reading them, but in nearly 80% of Minnesota families, all parents work, and childcare issues are the primary cause of absenteeism among American workers. During the pandemic, labor force participation among mothers with young children dropped 11.1 percentage points in Minnesota, compared to 3.7 percentage points over the same period nationally. And more than 1 in 5 Americans care for someone who's injured, ailing, or aging. So we wanted to reach out to this population. Now, what I'd like to do in the next slide is talk a little bit about what this criteria is for this designation. So what this project does is it creates a special designation and a special badge for each family-friendly business criteria. And this leads to a special listing for the employer on the regional talent attraction site, helloironrange.com. It's something that we've developed for our area. But essentially, each employer would be listed, and then which criteria they would fall under, or if they fall under multiple criteria, that would also be listed underneath. So the people looking for work would know which one of these criteria this employer falls under. So there's 3 broad criteria. One is family friendly, and that's an employer who meets certain criteria, including flexible shifts, remote work that's flexible, or a shift that falls between that 9 to 3 time frame, so that someone could still drop their children off in the morning and pick them up at night. There's a family benefits category, which is a company offering benefits such as comprehensive insurance, paid time off, a living wage or more. And then there's a special category for youth, because we know youth labor force participation is going down. So it's jobs that meet specific criteria, making them ideal for school-age youth. And again, the overall purpose of this designation, and something that might work well for some of your areas, is that it's really just to engage those individuals that left the labor force and convince them to come back and possibly work at one of these employers. So next up, what I'd like to do is hand everything over to Adeshewa Adesiji, who's my Metro counterpart.
Thank you, Sean. Hello, everyone. My name is Adeshewa Adesiji. I'm the workforce strategy consultant located here in the metro area. The regions that I cover include Carver, Hennepin, Dakota, Scott, Anoka, Ramsey, and Washington counties. So my passion and my focus, or one of them, are how we can increase the BIPOC, which stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color representation in both today's and tomorrow's workforce. The industries that I focus on, out of the 6, are manufacturing, healthcare, and information technology. Next slide. So as Jessica mentioned earlier in the presentation, the face of Minnesota is becoming more diverse. That's something that we can no longer ignore. She had briefly mentioned that between 2018 and 2038, the population in Minnesota is expected to increase by 11.3%. But as you can see, the population in BIPOC communities will be increasing significantly. The only decrease we see is with the white non-Hispanic population. Likewise, with age projections between 2018 and 2038, we do see that there will be an increase of people between the ages of 15 to 54, and definitely a huge increase of those 75 years of age or older. So there will be, that mass exodus, a lot of people retiring, but then there will also be a lot of people entering the workforce, and most likely the people entering the workforce is going to look a lot different than the ones that are exiting. So next slide. Thank you. So what I like to tell employers is diversity plus equity plus inclusion equals a sense of belonging. So as a workforce strategy consultants, when we talk to employers when it comes to DEI and how to get more people from the BIPOC communities into the workforce, we do it basically in a three-step process. We assess, we consult, and we develop. And so some of the ideas and strategies is conducting internal audits, organizations' workforce climate. What is your current climate today? Modifying recruitment plans for targeted groups. No two groups are the same. Even within the BIPOC communities, how you recruit and outreach to one community is going to be much different than how you outreach and connect with another community under the umbrella. Definitely strengthening the communication between staff and leadership. An example could be putting together and participating in a committee focusing on BIPOC and inclusiveness in the workplace. Increasing staff involvement throughout the hiring process and policy development. Once again, being inclusive, asking and inviting people from those communities to be a part of the process. And then also mentor-mentee program, career development, connecting staff with leadership to talk about how people from the BIPOC communities that are looking to advance within that company can advance within that company. And of course, as workforce strategy consultants, we also do presentations and workshops tailored to your organization to further discuss the issue of DEI in your workplace. Next slide. So one of the pilot projects or one of the ideas that we are currently working on is called Minorities in Manufacturing, so MEM for short. And so the goal is to increase the percentage of BIPOC and other diverse talent pools within the manufacturing industry. As we all know that the manufacturing industry is a predominantly white male industry. And with the increase of the diverse populations in Minnesota, how can we get more individuals from the BIPOC communities into the manufacturing industry? And so we want to strengthen that outreach to BIPOC and diverse community organizations through connecting with parents, schools, job seekers, community leaders, focusing on creating, reskilling, and upskilling future workforce talent, growing the diversification of applicants and hiring. We are partnering or plan to partner with a few of the industry associations to work on this. And we do believe that the pilot will be between 6 months to 2 years. First, starting with developing strategies to get people from the BIPOC communities into the manufacturing industry and setting up plans for career advancement within that industry. The phase 2 would be entrepreneurship. So for those individuals within the BIPOC community that is interested in becoming entrepreneurs in this industry, what are the tools and services that are available to help them? Next slide. So looking inward, just kind of a couple of things for you as the employer to think about during and definitely after this presentation. Does your community know who you are and what you do? Does your job description send the message of your organization being an inclusive and a welcoming environment? Does your leadership mirror the demographics of your staff? And are there fears or concerns with developing a diversity, equity, and inclusion action plan within your place of business? Next slide. So with that, I will pass this along to my counterpart, Della Ludwig.
Good morning, everyone. I am Della Ludwig. I'm the Workforce Strategy Consultant for Central Minnesota. I cover cities such as Willmar, Hutchinson, Monticello, St. Cloud, and all the way over to the Wisconsin border of Taylors Falls, Hinckley area, North Branch, etc. So I have over 25 years of HR experience, and I focus on recruiting, training, and retention through diversifying your workforce. And within the industries, I obviously work in all of them, but manufacturing and healthcare are the two key areas that I work within. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about company culture. Before I get started, I just want to make sure that you take the opportunity to put questions in the chat, and we'll be answering or trying to answer as many of those at the end as possible. So talking about culture. So as employee supply, the employee supply is limited and demand for workers increases. It's crucial for employers to understand that workers have and will continue to have increased choices. One of the first things that a business needs to do in a tight labor market is to evaluate that culture. The corporate culture is the social and psychological environment of an organization, and it symbolizes the unique personality of a company. And it expresses the core values, ethics, diversity, behaviors, and beliefs of your organization. Culture is your brand. It is how your employees, job seekers, and the community view your organization. So to help build a successful culture, organizations should offer confidential surveys to their employees at least every 2 years. This is a great opportunity to let employees know their choice, that their voice is being heard, and they understand what matters to your people and take action. Audit your staff representation and strengthen the diversity. For example, the manufacturing industry, like Adejewa had brought up, averages about 60 to 70% white male workers. So organizations should look at ways to market to other diverse groups and strengthen their recruitment pipeline by reaching out to women or BIPOC and other diverse groups. Employers should also measure employee turnover and examine reasons for it to see if turnover is in a specific department and if training can be increased for supervisors and employees in that department. Organizations need to remember that they have internal and external customers and that they need to treat the job seekers and employees like their best clients. On the next slide here, we just have a few ideas that are going on within our regions and throughout the state. Just some ideas for you guys to be thinking about on how you can enhance your culture and build a stronger talent pipeline. So communities are building a stronger resident recruitment initiative that welcome newcomers to visit, live, work, and even get connected and grow within their communities. Diversify your workforce by looking at local labor market information and creating a marketing plan to recruit and retain a diversified workforce, and offer internal diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Work with your local schools, adult basic education, and community outreach programs to provide virtual or on-site tours, training, and career pathway opportunities. You can even offer free community ed classes to show people different general skills that would make them successful in your industry, as well as creating a talent pipeline. Develop strong internal career pathway maps to help everyone route their success. Have this information posted within your organization to show career opportunities. Share career pathways with job applicants during the interview process as well as with your employees during their annual reviews. And offer creative benefits that are different than others within your industry or within your communities. Consider offering time off for employee referrals so their spouse and family can also benefit from them giving those referrals. Set up employee referral drawings and give an entry ticket for each referral that they give. Set up a table in a high traffic area that the company shows all of the giveaways that they're planning on doing, like power tools, TVs, gift cards, and other prizes, to continually remind staff of the incentives for referring staff. Develop a car loan program through an employee payroll deduction for those that are having issues with financing a car loan. Offer flex scheduling, on-site daycare, and daycare reimbursement. And develop strong training and certification programs within your organization, or reimburse training and expenses to keep current staff motivated about career opportunities within your industry. Remember, employee retention is about your company's culture and the opportunity given. Again, if you have any questions, make sure that you're adding them into the chat box. At this time, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Jessica Miller, who represents Southwest, South Central, and Southeast Minnesota.
Again, I'm back. As you know, Jessica Miller and I cover Southern Minnesota while we find the perfect candidate to take over for Southeast. Looking forward to our team. I have 20 plus years of experience in human resources, as well as learning and development, both in the public and private sector, as well as union and non-union environments. And like my colleagues, I also focus on recruiting and retention strategies. And I have a personal passion in skill identification and enhancement. So thinking about getting your staff in the right seat based on their skill sets. Are you underutilizing your staff? That's kind of one of my passions, as well as investing in diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, both in the workplace as well as your communities in Greater Minnesota. I'm also the #1 fan of Southern Minnesota. Can change the slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the power of social media. It is a great tool to engage with people of all ages. And we know that social media is spilling a constant story. And I want to ask you, not only what story are you telling, but what stories are you listening to? Do you have a presence? Are you engaging with others and promoting the things that you're proud of for your business? Are you telling the stories of the work people who are actually doing it? Are you thinking about social media as a tool for reaching your future workforce? And if not, you should start. So once my son started school, I knew that I personally was going to need to be more engaged with other parents in the community that I live in. So I joined a mom's group. And I noticed quickly that that group is such a wide network of information. So who are the best in the area? What teachers are the people that are in the know? Once COVID happened, the information started to shift. I've seen more information about parents having to quit their jobs because their employers couldn't be flexible enough for distance learning, for example. And then I started seeing that people were trying to find people were commenting, company, we do have the flexibility for distance learning or time off or whatever the need was. So they were helping each other find an employer that was going to meet their specific needs. And it was great. It was this vast network of information. And soon people started talking about jobs for their spouses or their teenagers. And all of a sudden, there was this capturing of the best employers for this particular area. You can change the slide. Next slide, please. So now the mom HR folks in the group started asking questions. Here's just a couple snapshots of some things that I saw on the screen. There was an HR manager for a manufacturing company looking for information on how to make their particular facility more appealing for families. And so they started asking those questions to these people that had this wealth of information and opinions. And while they were also sharing the positions that they have available in that company, they were talking about their benefits. 60 people commented on this particular post and shared information about what they felt were the most important qualities for them as a working parent. Tons of information was collected by this particular professional. Not only that, she had the opportunity to engage and let them know all the things that they are doing that people were saying that they needed in a company. It was amazing. It was actually pretty brilliant. So now this is kind of spreading, and we're seeing lots of people are kind of finding these groups. It's not just mom groups. There are also groups on community people looking for work in their communities. There was another person, an HR person, that posted, "Hey, I'm an employer and I'm recruiting for various positions in manufacturing, and I want to know, where do you look for your jobs?" Again, free information right there. Lots of people commented and provided information about where to best post for jobs. Use those groups as a tool for you. Another person, I noticed there's an employer that I work with who uses social media, Facebook in particular, and they have a special group for the employees that work for that company. And they use that as an information tool for them too. They do polls, they do surveys. It's kind of speaking back to that culture component that Della talked about. What are your employees saying about your company, and what do they think? And what do you know what the most important things are to them? And this particular company found out through those surveys and polls thought were the most important things to their employees weren't, and they were way off. They were missing the boat. And actually the solutions and the options that the employees wanted in that particular case were much easier and cost effective than what they thought their employees wanted. So the power of asking those questions and collecting that information is unbelievable. Next slide, please. Here's a couple examples of employers telling their stories. Not only are they selling their product, they're selling their story. They're selling their new coworkers, their new work family. Here you can see one person is sharing name badges for the health provider that she was working for, or she works for. You can see her career progression in the badges from custodian to RN to nurse practitioner. They're selling an opportunity in this particular company. Growth, advancement, loyalty. We will take care of you. We will support you, and we will invest in you. The other company is selling the opportunity to make a difference, to become a life-sharing provider, as the title's called. You're sharing a life with the people that you're serving. They will be your family. And not only that, you can work from home and you can earn a livable wage while you do it, because they're saying right there, they're actually what they're doing. You can change the slide. So what are you doing? Are you posting videos? Show what your jobs entail. People want to see what they might be expected to do to determine if they think that they can do it. That's just human nature, especially in the days of YouTube, where we go online, we see, okay, this is how I do something. All right, I can do that. It's the same thing with the jobs that you're promoting. Show people what they can do. These videos don't have to be perfect. Have you seen TikTok? There are millions and millions of videos getting millions and millions of likes and views that are done on a cell phone. That is perfectly okay. And actually, it's the humanness of those videos that make people want to draw to them. So we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for real. You know, people want to see the humanness in your company. Sage Glass in Southeast Minnesota has blooper reels on YouTube of their videos, and they're actually the most watched videos that they have for their company. Check out Sage Glass, because they actually have a really good grasp on social media and the use of videos in YouTube. Highlight your employees. Take high quality photos and share something about them. Ask them why they work there and get that information. People respond to those who have been there and who work there. People also want to know if there are people who are going to look like them when they work there. Will they have a community that they will fit into and feel comfortable with? So highlight the people that are working for you. And then finally, tell your story. People love stories, even the hard ones. Everyone loves a comeback story. So remember, not telling a story is telling one. It's kind of that whole concept around culture too, like Della was speaking to. Not having a culture is a culture in and of itself. Okay, you can change slides. All right, so training and community engagement. How are you currently engaged with upskilling our current and our future workforce? There's lots of different ways that you can be engaged in your communities and help support those who are working up through the ranks, our youth, our dislocated workers, our folks that are looking at making a career change. In South Central Minnesota, we have the South Central Construction Trades Boot Camp. This is a model that could be replicated no matter what sector, really. It's a 2-week interactive camp that provides hands-on experiences for youth to gain exposures to careers in the construction trades. And they'll learn about union apprenticeships and training opportunities. Each day at camp, the featured trade will guide students through an interactive hands-on project. And on the final day of camp, students participate in a tour of the training center. So they get to see where they would go and learn all these different practices. And at graduation ceremony, students that successfully complete the camp receive a certificate of completion, which they can take that as they build their experience, and a pair of work boots. So that's kind of a cool thing that happens here. Daikin, a manufacturing company in Southeast Minnesota, has a community training program. This is a 40-hour training, and it's free to participants, and it teaches the basics of hand and power tools, basic electrical wiring, and employment readiness training. So it's a great way to get people into the door to try something new in a safe and secure environment where they don't feel like everybody's watching me. Am I going to be able to make it, right? And upon completion, participants receive a certificate and they have the work at Daikin. And another way that Daikin is impacting their community is through the opening of a new Daikin soccer complex. The complex opened just a couple weeks ago in Owatonna, and it's a perfect way to give back to the community while building that brand recognition with all of those kids and people who are going to be utilizing that soccer complex. But especially engaging the youth. They will always know the name Daikin because of this facility. And then the other example I popped on here is about Hormel. And Hormel provides scholarship opportunities for children of their employees. And there are several other companies that are following suit. I believe Genio does this as well. Investing in these efforts is investing in your future workforce and building those talent pipelines directly to your company. All right, next slide, please. All right, so we've given you a lot to think about. So now's the time where we would like to get at answering your questions. We'll go through and we'll check out these questions, and like I think Della talked about, and I mentioned before, any question that we don't get an opportunity to answer today, we're going to follow up with those answers, and you'll get an email after this event with the PowerPoint, with the recording of this presentation, with the Q&A, with links to our evaluation, and then also with a link to the next session, which will be focusing on building inclusion and preparing and retaining a diverse workforce. So I'm going to kick this off to Della and Sean to start going through some of these questions that we can answer for you.
Sure.
Keep them coming too.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. We've had quite a few questions coming in. We tried answering some of them as we were going. A lot of questions about the presentation being available and the slides available. We will make everything available after the presentation, as well as the slides. So you will have all of the information that we went through today. Just give us probably a day or so to get everything put together. And we'll also have a survey available for you guys to complete too. So it will be interactive and help us plan future events. One of the questions that I saw that I thought was really good is where do I find an employee survey, or where do I begin with that? I would strongly suggest looking at the Society for Human Resource Management, or SHRM. They have tons of different information available for employers and their HR departments. Policies, procedures, surveys, all of that type of information can be found on their site. There's also local groups throughout the state of Minnesota that have that information. And in my region, we actually have a little extra where we have HR group that one of them actually met this morning for Career Solutions and CMJTS. They also have their own HR networking groups, and there's a lot of sharing and confidentiality within that group, and people feel really comfortable, offering and sharing that information. Any other questions that you see out there that are popping up, Sean or Jess, that you would like me to address?
Well, one, if I could address real quick. This individual said a company I work for fit the family-friendly criteria. How do we get involved in it? Right now, it's just being piloted up in Northeast Minnesota. However, I'm happy to provide all the criteria that we're using and help get it if any other areas are interested in starting one, or if they'd like to see what we end up doing. So right now, it's only in the Northeast. So if you're in the Northeast, let me know.
Excellent. And then
So-
I saw a couple questions about daycare. How do I get a daycare started or situated, or increase that availability for my staff? I would strongly suggest reaching out to your local community as well as your local initiative foundation. They have been doing a lot of work on this and really making great progress, where either communities are building daycares or businesses are building them directly right on their site, or at least paying or holding spots for their employees. Some great flexibility and another great to be offering for your employees.
And that works for all industries. I know in the community that I live in, there's a big printer and they have an on-site daycare that is priority for employees. We also have a roofing company in Southwest Minnesota that has an on-site daycare, which is really helpful for those employees because the hours needed, especially in the summer, are very long, right? So they're non-traditional hours, and they subsidize quite a bit of that resource for their employees for daycare. The other thing I saw in here, Della, was about car loans. I don't know if you want to talk about the microloans.
Yeah, that's a great question too. We have a company in our region, Horizon Roofing, who had set that up because they were finding that people either didn't have transportation or didn't have reliable transportation or just couldn't get that first loan. So they set up where their company would offer car loans for their employees, and it would just become a deduction from their payroll. Obviously, the person had to sign something in case they would leave their business and would have to pay that money back. But just another way to think outside the box and offer that as an option. I also saw another business right out there that they have joined forces with their local credit union. That person get that loan even at a lower interest rate. And helping them get started.
I'll address a question about resources for small businesses. I think we have talked about a lot of our strategies do take a bit of a commitment, and sometimes not every business has the capacity to carry out some of the work that we're talking about. But I can say that each of us have worked with businesses of all sizes in trying to implement, whether it's family-friendly policies or trying to build more inclusivity at their place of business. In particular, for the IWE designation, we have resources available that we recommend for smaller employers who don't have the capacity to roll out an entire staff survey, for example. And so we try to be very conscious of the fact that the majority of our businesses in the state of Minnesota are small businesses, and trying to identify resources to help them make these steps or engage in these strategies that will be something that they can handle if they're limited staff.
I'm seeing some questions about boot camp here also, and applying those to different sectors. It's absolutely a model that can be replicated no matter the sector. Well, across the state, we have Scrubs Camp, which is focused on hands-on learning opportunities for youth in medical careers. And we've got the Tour of Manufacturing that focuses on manufacturing and getting kids into manufacturing facilities to see how things are made right in their communities. We have, you know, we have a lot of different hands-on opportunities where we're trying to get these career opportunities in the minds of our youth as we're going. But another thing that popped up, Sean, is kind of talking about that family-friendly designation. And I'm wondering if you could talk about babies at work a little bit, because that could be something that could be added to that model.
Sure. Babies at Work is a program. If you're familiar with Clockworks in the Twin City Metro, they are sort of the main advocate for babies at work. But we also have some companies in Northeast Minnesota that are doing it. But essentially, it's a program where you're able to bring your newborn child to work with you. I mean, obviously, it would very much depend on the type of work that you do. It works best in an office setting. But essentially, you get an agreement with the company that you will bring the child to work with you, that you'll have a separate disposal system for the dirty diapers, that you have if you'll go home if the baby starts to cry or gets upset, and complete the rest of your workday at home, or however the criteria needs to be structured. It's different per employer. But the idea is that it allows you to take the baby until they're mobile. And at that point in time, you'd have to put them in the childcare. It's fantastic for a variety of reasons. One of the biggest ones being that, infant care is one of the hardest cares to get, especially with, our current childcare shortage. So it kind of alleviates that. It helps people get back to work faster. It also is more time for the mother and child to bond, or father and child to bond. So provides that option as well. Also, they sign a document, because I know a lot of people ask questions about liability. The parent would sign, an agreement that is where they assume all liability for the child, and the child is with the parent at all times. So that helps out with that sort of liability issue as well. So it's an interesting program. If any has questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you about it.
This is Jackie. I just also wanted to share, a lot of when we're talking small businesses, a lot of what's happening out there is collaborations. There's a lot of collaborations with other small businesses in the same sector that are working to address the workforce challenges that everyone is facing out there. In many of the regions, the workforce strategy consultants actually lead sector strategies where the groups get together, whether it's educators and businesses and industry associations. And I see we have some industry associations that are online and joining this event today that are participating and putting answers in the chat for us. Thank you. So, we know that a lot of the businesses we serve are small and medium-sized businesses that don't have full HR departments. So we're there to help. And so are a lot of these collaborations that are out there in your region.
A couple other questions. What role do we see language playing when it comes to diversity and inclusion? We've run quite a few different programs in central Minnesota pertaining to this. A lot of training for employers and then with the employees. Career One is one of the programs that's offered in central Minnesota, where one of the businesses, Coleman, actually set up a program with Career Solutions, and they did an 8-hour workday where 4 hours they were in class getting paid to work on their language and their reading and math skills. And then the second half of the day, they were out on the floor and actually learning a new job. And then they had a second group that did the opposite shift. So there was always somebody on the floor working, but also being trained at the same time. We also have quite a few different resources available for language. If there is any concerns or issues with that, or if you're working with certain immigrant groups or diverse populations, we can assist you with that and help you walk through some of those projects and programs that are available.
One other question that came up was from Patty asking if there's an inexpensive resource that does videos of employees at work or capturing why they love their job. I think that's a great question. What we have found many times, some of the best videos that are done are actually done by your own smartphone and taking a 90-second video to tell your story. There are a couple resources. I know that the Center of Excellence for Manufacturing is making available during Manufacturing Month. So depending on what your industry is, that might be an option too. So feel free to reach out to myself or others on this question. Looks like we're coming close to the end of our hour. So if you're okay, maybe we can just do a quick wrap up, Della. Is that all right?
Sure.
Just questions. So I just want to, I know there was a question we wanted to put in the chat here. Is there an idea shared today that you plan to pursue in your work environment or in your business? If you could put that in the chat, that would be great. We would love to hear from you. But in closing, I truly hope that this time has been valuable for you today. You've had an opportunity to meet Dee's Workforce Strategy Consultant team and to hear about some important workforce strategies as we move forward in these challenging times. These questions may help as you consider implementing some of these ideas in your organization, whether it be culture, DEI initiatives, community engagement, social media, or ways to engage more talent pools. I hope that you can bring at least one of these ideas back to your work environment. You know, and I'm seeing things come in from creating a video about why people love their job or about the benefits of working for us. You know, trying to look at a way to make their work environment family friendly. There is just a lot of great ideas. So we will make sure that we pull all of this together when we send out the recording of the Workforce Wednesdays, the PowerPoint. We'll also be sending out a post-event survey. And for those questions that we were unable to get to today, we will do a Q&A resource that will be sent out to all via email to participants after the events. I just want to again encourage and recommend that you join us on July 7th at 11 a.m. for the next Workforce Wednesday. The topic is Building Inclusion, Preparing and Retaining a Diverse Workforce. Next month, we have a great number of, a great panel of experts who will be presenting. And again, I'm just going to repeat it. Don't forget, we will be live first Wednesday of every month. Yes, every single month with great new topics about workforce from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. So check out our upcoming session topics, resources, blogs, and ways to engage with your regional workforce strategy consultant at careerforcemn.com. You can also sign up there to receive our email blasts for reminders about these events, our newsletter, our blogs, and other information about what the team is up to. The link will be available in the chat and will be sent out to you again once it's over. There's so many great ideas coming up. In addition, there's a link to the evaluation and registration for the next event in the chat box, and you'll be receiving that in the packet that we send out after the event. So with that, it is 11:59, and again, on behalf of the Workforce Strategy Consultant team, Chet, Della, Jessica, Adeshewa, Sean, and myself, we cannot thank you enough for joining our first ever Workforce Wednesday event and look forward to seeing you next month. Thanks.